I want to start with this. Why do some of the most gifted women still end up losing everything? It's because if gifting was enough, they would sustain it, but they don't. And I want you to really hear this today because many of you are not lacking ability. You're not lacking intelligence. You're not lacking work ethic. You're not lacking vision. You're continually building, but there's a difference between building something and sustaining something. So, welcome to the Arise Hour with Dr. Martha Nessa, where we're going to renew our minds, reclaim our identity, and align our lives with heaven's blueprint so we can arise into the life that God created us to live. I am sorry, I'm getting so caught up today. So, most high capacity women believe I just need more clarity. I just need the right strategy. I just need to figure this out. And that's not true. Because I want to tell you this, like, you already have the ability, you already have the capacity, the discipline in many areas, and you know how to execute. So the problem is not what you can do or even what you're not doing, but the problem is how you are doing it and who you're doing it with. Okay. So I believe that when you're gifted, things work, even when you're not fully aligned. So you can build a business, grow something, create results without being completely dependent on God. I know that's true because the whole reason I built my community and my course and began coaching on making God your CEO is so many women like myself, because you're highly capable, because you're gifted, you can easily build a business. And rather than making God the CEO, God, for a woman who loves the Lord, it becomes like he's just a board member, right? And we run to God. I want to back up for a minute. So God gives you this idea. He gives you these gifts and he puts it on your heart and you begin to do it. But what happens is we kind of step back from God, really paving the way and charging the way. And we're like, you know what? I've kind of got this, God. And we treat him like a board member. And so we run to him with problems like we would a board, right? We run to him if we need him, but we're not actually fully dependent upon him. He's not the CEO. So he's not the one that's calling all the shots and the one that we're running to. And I believe this is where it becomes dangerous because what happens is you start to believe, I've got this. I've got this almost equates to God, I don't need you to do this. Okay. And this is I don't know if it's the beginning of self-sufficiency or where self-sufficiency really begins to begin to control the show and begin to control you. You focus on self-sufficiency, on what you can do, what you need to do. Now, I do feel this is subtle, and I don't think it just feels like rebellion. I think a lot of times many people wouldn't even realize they've fallen into it. I know that I didn't. But what it feels like is I know what to do. I'll figure it out. I'll make this work. I've got this. I can make this happen. I will make this happen. That's how it sounds. But what happens is very slowly you fade out of asking God and waiting on God and inviting God into your situation until there's a crisis. I will say, then you'll be begging Him. And listen, none of this is from a place of judgment. This is because my life drastically shifted when I stepped out of being like the CEO boss babe and stepped into this surrendered space with God. And because you kind of stop asking God and you just stop this desire to please him because you really do feel like you have it. And I get that because I've been there, but it's also exhausting. So I kind of want to go into the real issue here, okay, which is misalignment, and really begin to talk to you about that. And I would love for you guys to comment if you're watching live. So, and if this speaks to you, please like it. Please subscribe to my channel. Those things matter with YouTube. Drop some comments of things that really speak to you because it does help get my message out. So, and this is where in misalignment, it's where we have to understand something much deeper. Because I believe if we don't really understand how God works, we don't really understand how we work. So God works in three different ways, which is natural order, miracles, and providence. So sometime, and what that means is sometimes he's working through what he's already established. Sometimes he'll interrupt what's going on, and sometimes he'll be working slowly behind the scenes. And while that's happening, because he's sovereign, right? He's doing all that constantly and in complete control. We have free will. Now, what we do with that free will is up to us. And I believe as a faith based woman, you are planning, you're praying, and you're trusting and you're obeying. That is the ideal way that our free will interacts with God's sovereignty, right? But I think the thing we have to realize is just because it's our plan or just because we pray it doesn't mean that is exactly how God's going to do it. And that's where that trust and obey comes in, that we really do have to trust and obey him. So it doesn't, we don't always get what we want, right? It's literally you are a daughter of the king and you're not always going to get what you want. So I believe that high capacity women, they feel this tension all the time because it's like we're so used to doing, we're executing our free will. We're like, take care of the kids, running the business, supporting the husband, going to church, being involved in the church, supporting the community, taking care of the family needs. We know how to plan, we know how to execute, right, ladies? But sometimes God's just like surrender, and it's almost the juggling of a million hats. How do I put one down? How do I take one off? And it feels this tension. And that tension is the space between our will and God's sovereignty. It's that dance, that how do I make this work? How do I make this work? God has such a desire to make things work with us, but our free will sometimes I just gets us really in trouble. So what happens is, and where this can go wrong is we make a plan, but we don't fully submit to God's plan. We pray, but we actually are telling God what to do. And then we trust God until it doesn't make sense to us. It's like, wait, God, that doesn't make sense. And I've experienced that more. The more I lean in to God, the more I fully submit and surrender to Him, the more my trust is being challenged and the more my faith is expanding, right? But what happens a lot of times is when we're not fully surrendered, when we start telling God what to do, we're like, I don't know if I trust you, God, this is weird. We want to take control back. So we step into overthinking and pressure and control and self-sufficiency. And it really does become a vicious cycle. And I believe the enemy wants us caught in that cycle because here's the thing is I don't know everything about whoever's listening right now, but what I do know is there's a calling on your life that when God creates you, he creates you with plan and intention, and you are a perfect creation and he has a plan for you. But when you're and the oil of anointing is on you and you've got this calling, I believe the enemy sees it too. And so if he has you overthinking, if he has you feeling pressure and control and self-sufficiency and all those things, if he has you feeling all that, you're like, frenetic energy versus streamlined energy. Frenetic, I'm overthinking, I feel the pressure, the control, and you're like going in a million ways. Streamlined energy goes forward. Frenetic energy is just like this blob of energy being pulled in a million different ways. And I think a lot of women battle that. I know a lot of my clients who come to me, it's like a secret battle, one you're almost afraid to admit. But this is where gifted leaders fall. We talked about Samson, and this is really where he fell because he started to think, oh well, I think I trust Delilah. I think I'll tell her my superpower. And he kind of got off of, hey God, this doesn't make sense. Like she seems to really care about me. I can just tell her. And that's how it fell. But gifted leaders don't fall because they're not capable. Okay, it's because they stop staying in alignment with God, right? And God gives us these gifts and he wants us to use them for his will, right? And when we say, "Okay, God, I will," we have to really say it with like a, my one of my dear friends said to me when we were living in New Zealand. She was also an American. If it's not a full body yes, it's a no. Okay. Because when you start moving without instruction, relying on your own abilities, and stop checking in with God, because things don't happen overnight and they're slow, you suddenly start to just kind of say, okay, God, you know what? I've got this. Like, why don't you go solve world hunger? I've got this, right? But I believe discipline is what protects your calling. And I don't mean discipline like work harder, do more, get up earlier, like make your bed, like you're in the army. I don't mean that type of discipline. I mean the discipline of staying connected to God, fully surrendering to God, and aligning your life with His. Um, I think if I had a way to sum it up, discipline would say, I don't move just because I can, right? I move because I know God asked me to move, and I want to move in alignment with Him, and I want to surrender my will to His, because His is always better, right? It's always better. So this is the hard truth of full of high capacity women. You can build something successful but be out of alignment with God. Okay, um, you can do that, but you're not going to sustain it. Okay, you're not going to sustain it. And I can show you many biblical examples of that. So building something successful, stepping out of alignment with God, and it's just not sustainable because we need God. Like when there's something so big and the mission is so big, even when I started to create this course and think, what do you mean? Like, okay, what do you want me to do, God? Like I didn't feel like I had the ability. Sometimes it's like when we get the call. I mean, Noah had no idea what he was doing. I mean, Adam, like, name all the plants and all the animals. He's like, what are these things? Sometimes it's so much bigger than us. But that's why the more we like, I just wrote this little devotional. If you want it, you can comment devotional. It's small start, big God, right? 10 days of prayers and declarations, because it's just a small start of obedience because we serve a big God. Okay. So here's the question. The question is not how gifted are you or do I have enough gifts, but it's how aligned am I right now to sustain what I'm building? How aligned with God am I right now? Where is my, if I did an intimacy check on my life with me and God, like where would it be? On a scale of 1 to 10, if you were to rate the level of your intimacy with the Lord, where would it be? Because, God's not just interested in what you build. He has this big interest in how you build it because he has an idea for it, right? And he has an idea how you're going to use it to serve others. He has an idea how this gifting that he gave you is going to bless his other children. And that's what God's concerned about, right? And so I don't think it's ever about being enough, because if you think about it, technically Adam was the first zoologist and gardener ever, and there was no one who'd ever been a zoologist or gardener, and God showed him how to do that. The same with Noah. I don't know if he was a carpenter. I don't think so, but taught him how to build. I mean, we just talked about Samson and the killing of the people with the donkey jawbone, right? These are things that's like, there's no way you could be gifted in this without God. So the big question is not what can I do, but God, what are you asking me to do? Not what can I build, but God, how do you want me to build it? And the thing is I've built successful businesses without God. And I said this to one of my friends the other day, and I actually said it to a client the other day, both of them who are building a business where God is the CEO. Um, there's like several businesses I've built that have been very successful before God was my CEO. Where I was the CEO, they did well. And actually felt quite easy. I'm being honest here. I'm being honest. Um, But then when God asked me to build this community and to build this course and to put myself out there in a different way, and it was so personal to him, it was something that was on his heart that he gave to me and said, like, I want you to share this. Like, I want you to help my daughters to have awareness, to understand the identity of what it means to be my daughter. Um, I want you to help my daughters understand intimacy in a different way and spiritual gifting and how to take that and step into a deeper level of authority and leadership. And I just was like, wow, Lord, I can't believe you'd asked me to do that. I don't know how to do that. I don't know what that means. I don't know how to coach like this. I've never done it. And it was like, I challenged him, right? That's why I'm so passionate about this. I challenged him. And I had to take that little step of obedience. And I had to step out of I've got this and step into God's got this, right? So I want to share that with you. And if this resonated with you, I want you to comment Arise and I will get you connected to the community where we go deeper into this, right? I have an upcoming workshop and I have a free community. I also have a private community. So we can talk about that. Just comment Arise. Let's start the conversation. And those of you who are in my private community, I will meet you on Zoom where we break this down. That is one of the benefits of being one of the private community members. And I'll see you on Zoom in a second. But the final question I have is where in your life are you relying on your ability instead of staying aligned with God and allowing Him to make you able? So I want you to sit with that. And once again, I will see those of you in my community. So look forward to it.